Mr. Byron.
Here.
You might have stepped out.
Here. Yeah, that's why I didn't want to leave out. They always have to be done at this rate, 2,000 years. You know, the corporations, they don't need this. So, a lot of the changes, the state changes, everyone get the roof. Yeah, that's the problem. That's insurance up your money. Roof, getting the roof material is the problem. You know, I've been having trouble with my roof. Yeah.
Sit at the round table.
Hey, hey, hey. Take Jimmy's chair. Yeah, sit right there.
Take that seat now.
Talk about here, really, yeah, really, yeah, really.
Ain't nothing
Y'all ain't done a damn thing. 2 days. You can't talk about the weather. I should at least put a shake on top of the every time they get down up there, there's some people freaking out of my mouth. No, I mean, I would give a damn if somebody else.
Okay.
Look, I'm gonna talk to you. Get on my last side. No, we're not talking. Okay, Pete. Look, the intro goes down.
Okay, before we begin tonight's meeting, I want to extend an apology to the citizens of Crowley for the lack of decorum that has plagued our city council meetings. Effective immediately, I will maintain order in this chamber. As a presiding official, I'm charged with the responsibility of making sure all business is conducted in a respectful manner. Respect for this legislative body, respect for me as the mayor, and respect for one another should not be goals we strive to attain. They should deeply be rooted in who we are as elected officials and citizens of this great city. Let me be perfectly clear. Council and committee meetings will be conducted in an orderly fashion. It is only with proper decorum and respect for everyone that the business of this city can be conducted in a timely manner with everyone given fair and equal treatment. The following will be adhered to by all who attend a meeting of this council. The agenda will be followed, and anyone deviating from the agenda without it being properly amended will be called out of order. Do not interrupt the person who has the floor. You are not to speak unless recognized by the presiding official, whether that be a committee chair during a committee meeting or the mayor during a council meeting and committee meeting. Outbursts from the public will not be tolerated. You will be called out of order. Any further outbursts will be cause for removal from this meeting. Public input is welcome, however, public disruption of a meeting is not allowed. When called upon to address a committee or the full council, the individual must be recognized by the presiding official before approaching the podium to speak. The use of vulgar language is inappropriate and disrespectful. It will not be permitted in this chamber, but if used by anyone, you will be called out of order and immediately escorted out of this chamber. Threats and aggressive behavior from anyone in this chamber, either verbal or physical, will result in immediate removal from the chamber. Weapons of any kind are not allowed inside this chamber unless you are on duty as a commissioned officer. Proof of being on duty and being duly commissioned are required to be presented to the presiding official prior to the start of the meeting. If you are called out of order, you are to immediately cease your action or behavior. Otherwise, you will be called out of order again and escorted out of this chamber. A 2-minute rule will be strictly enforced for all who have been granted the floor to speak by the presiding officer. Discussion will be germane to the topic, and only the presiding official is allowed to interrupt the speaker. While in this chamber, I'm asking each member of the council to respect each other, respect me as the mayor, respect all city employees, respect guests who are here to witness and or participate in the proceedings of this body. Nothing less than your full cooperation is acceptable, and nothing more is given than my full commitment to see to it that you abide by these instructions. Thank you. All right, we'll move on. Public Works Committee, Mr. Crater.
Thank you. I'd like to call to order the Public Works Committee. Everyone is present except Mr. Core. First off, we'll have the Public Works Director, Mr. Albert John.
Can we have a point of order?
Sorry,
Mayor, can we have a point of order?
Good afternoon.
just a second.
Can we have a point of order?
Yes. You have the floor.
Point.
Well, we extended, the goodwill to a bid, anything? Or is that part of the, our control and
No,
you do as I say?
No, Mr.
I'm just
Martin.
asking, I mean.
No, I know, Mr. Martin, you're asking, but it's not a point of order. Point of order doesn't mean, excuse me, let me speak. Point of order is, did Mr. Crater do anything wrong at what he's trying to preside?
But sir, with all due respect, we need to have the courtesy to ask if there's any amendments.
At that point, we will. If Mr. Crater has one during his committee, he is more than welcome to ask for an amendment. An amended agenda.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir, you're welcome. Sorry, Mr. Crater.
Carry on.
Good afternoon. We only have one piece of equipment that we're having problems with right now, and that's the boom mower. We started spraying for mosquitoes 2 weeks ago. We're spraying the city. once a week right now. It's been divided into 3 sections, from the tracks or Second Street to the city limits on one night. The next night will be from Second Street to Northern Avenue, and then Northern Avenue to the bayou, to the north boundaries. So, I'm not seeing a lot of mosquitoes. I don't know if you guys are. You know, there probably are several hot spots. I was in one this morning in the cemetery. I didn't have a mosquito one, which is very unusual because of the amount of water in bosses and stuff like that sitting there. So, when the population pops up, we'll increase our spring. You have any questions? Be glad to answer them. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Martin.
Did, someone contact you about, I'm sorry, about the West Crowley, cemetery?
No.
The West Crowley cemetery?
No, sir.
About maintenance or what have you?
No, sir.
No one did? Okay. Well, someone will be contacted. Thank you.
Anything else for Mr. John? Thank you, Mr. John.
Thank you.
Next, Mr. Gilbert Ozine is not present, but I have his report to read. Trying to keep up with grass cutting due to all the rain. Picked up trash around town. Cleaned out culverts. Dug out ditches. They handed out sandbags because of the possible storm. Trimmed multiple low-hanging limbs. And removed 4 trees. And repaired potholes around town and still repairing some. And that's all I have from Mr. Gilbert Ozzie. Anybody got any questions on that? Okay. Moving on to city engineer, Mr. Tim Mayer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe you all have a copy of my written report in front of you. The first item that I have is an action item that begins on page 2. And this is pertaining to the street improvements and drainage and street improvement contracts. The update and the action is on page 3. If you look on page 3, you see in the left column I have a letter B that's pertaining to partial payment estimate number 12. As of June 30th, I will be able to give you a partial payment estimate report at the full council meeting next Wednesday. I wasn't able to get that information from the contractor before today. So I will report that to you, but I would like that to go down in your report as something that will come up at the council meeting next Wednesday.
Okay, and I'll make that motion as read to forward to the full council next week. Seconded by Mr. Martin. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Next item is on page 4. If you can see left column where the letter F is, this is going to be about the street improvements project. Down at the bottom of that page where you see the letter G, contract A, all I have there is a status report, which is reminding you that we did award a construction contract last month to Glenn Leger Construction. The city attorney reviewed the bids, tendered his opinion that the low bidder was appropriate. Currently, the contract is being processed for execution by the contractor. City attorney will need to review all the contract documents when receiving the contractor. All that is to say that we expect construction might begin in the August-September timeframe. No action required tonight. The top of page 5 is an update on contract B. There's nothing more to say there other than just read through it. If you have any questions, let me know. But contract B is in design now, and we will be coming up with the presentation of the plans for approval and bids within the next couple of months. On that same page 5 is the subject city-owned parking lot improvements. next page, page 6, I have some action items. At the letter J there, partial payment estimate number 4, I do have numbers from this contractor. As of June 30th, the contract was 77% complete by time, 37% complete by cost. Through partial payment estimate number 4, total value of work done through June is $790,157.84. $39,507.89 is being withheld for labor and material liens. So the total amount due is $266,848.21. So the first thing I need you to consider is approving that partial payment estimate to Triton for that project in the amount of $266,848.21.
Move, Mr. President.
Second. Moved by Mr. Martin, seconded by myself. Any discussion? Mr. Cavell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Mayor, the disparity between the contracted time and cost, is that due to the rain? Is it going to start equating or what?
Yes, the rain has really slowed them down, although the progress has been good in spite of that. The next item, in fact, I'm going to ask you to consider a time extension. Contractor would like to get that now, so that he knows what's ahead of him.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Yes, sir, Mr. Martin.
First of all, Tim, and to all council members, as you notice, they got a lot of young people out in the audience. And they are interested in local government, and they were just asking, they know what the council, they know what the mayor does, and they had asked me and said, well, what does the guy with the first bid do? Who you talking about? It said, the guy that you always talking to. So I said, well, he does so much. If possible, Ms. Mayor and everyone, I would like for Tim just to tell the people what you do, and basically, once you do what you do, you know, who you, I mean, I know you give it to the mayor, but I'll let you put in yours. Because like I told him, I'm not an engineer, so I'll let the engineer tell what the engineer do. If that's okay with you, Mr. Chair.
Let's vote on this, and then I'll allow you that time.
I appreciate that.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, and Mr. Mayor, carry on.
Yeah, I wish I had maybe a few minutes to think about an answer to that. I think basically the role of a city engineer is to keep the municipality in keeping with state statutes that govern how public works is brought to construction. There has to be a competitive bid process, has to be fair to all contractors, so plans and specifications have to be prepared so that when a contractor bids on a project, they're all bidding on the same exact improvement. That's probably the biggest thing we do is prepare plans and specifications for public works. There are other things we do. We help the city resolve drainage problems that mostly have to do with operation and maintenance, not necessarily public works.
You see, everything I told you, you just said, so now y'all know. Thank you, Chief. Let these, they interested in the word, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Carry on.
Okay, item 2 on page 6 is to approve a change order number 3 for Triton Construction. For that project, the city-owned parking lot improvements. We want to do 2 things in that change order. One is establish a unit price for the reconstruction of an existing catch basin. This is at Mustang Park. The price that we got from the contractor, $2,692, we feel is justified. That was a catch basin that had actually been covered up when we did topography, so we were unaware of it. But when we did discover it during the construction of the parking lot, we needed to do an adjustment to the whole structure to make it fit with the grades of the new parking lot. The other thing that we're asking for is a 60-day time extension. Contract is due to be completed August 6th, and the 60 days will bring it to October 6th.
I'll make that motion as read.
Second.
Who's second? Discussion? Yes, Mr. Sprinklr.
you, Chair. Mr. Mayor, October 6th, that's for the entire project, not just that?
Yes.
Okay.
I hope they quit breaking the rocks in the back of my house by then. Any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
I have no other action items, nor do I have anything that I want to bring up. I do have some highlighted items as usual, and if you have any questions for me between now and next Wednesday, my phone is always on.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Are there any other action items that need to come before this committee? Any discussion items that need to come before this committee?
Mr. Chair, I would like to ask a question. Tim, do you have an idea when we're gonna start rolling with this, get some of the streets repaired? That's off the top of your head.
Yes, the contract A is expected to get through the contract execution process this month, maybe into August. Contractor has an assembly period where he has to get all of his materials together, ship them, mobilization. So probably you'll begin to see patching crew come in August, maybe September. And all of the contract A area will probably be patched before he brings in a laydown, which will probably then be in November, something like that, November, December.
Thank you.
Are there any other legal items to come before the committee? Then the Public Works Committee recess.
Thank you, Mr. Crater. Next, Utility Committee, Mr. Martin.
Thank you, sir. Tim Crater, this is from there?
Yes, sir.
Tim, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Tim Crater, wastewater superintendent, as we call him, director, wasn't able to make it, so this is a report. Utilities Committee, the wastewater department. For the month of June, we received 229 local requests from LA1 call, with 83 of those being updated tickets. We had 25 work off the field. We reported at the past meeting that we had 3 pumps that had went down because of broken shafts. We learned last week that these pumps would be replaced due to a manufacturer's defect. We're in communication with the vendor to see when they will arrive. Recently, we pulled pumps. Recently, we pulled pumps at the Oddfellow Road pump station, which were clogged with flushable wipes, rags, plastic bags, etc. We asked if it's not made to go down the drain, throw it in the trash, philosophy. Just a note, okay? This station received from Walgreens, Chili's, Lowe's, Walmart, and 2 small strip centers. Subdivisions east of the station, and businesses west along Oddfellows up to AutoZone parking lot. We pull a pump at the main station and should pick it up today. We treated over 100 million gallons of wastewater, stormwater during the month, partly due to the 15 inches of rain. We averaged 5.7 million gallons during the 16 days of rain and 1.57 gallons during the dry days. We asked the public to be patient during the rain events to allow things to catch up. I forgot last month, but I would like to thank our employees in the department for doing what they do. They are the ones that make our job easy. Any questions, feel free to contact me or shoot me, we'll take away shoot. Okay. Call me or email me. And that's from Tim Craig. Okay, and Mayor, I think that's all we have from utilities and stuff for the next Tim. Joe.
Thank you, Steph. The Utility Committee Engineers Report begins on page 16. And the first item that I need to bring up is on page 18. I have some status reports that I want to emphasize. First one is at the top of page 18, it's item B, the community replacement project. You recall at your May meeting, you authorized the project to go forward. We have been preparing the plans and specifications, and we're about 50% complete at this time. That project is being funded at this time with capital outlay request money and a city match, which will be facilitated by a state revolving fund loan. Item C on that page is the UV system replacement project. You have a lot of red and yellow there. It's a lot to absorb. I'm going to go through it, and I would think you probably want some time to absorb it, maybe between now and Wednesday. We've been waiting to receive the funds under the American Rescue Plan Act and determine whether or not this UV system project is eligible. In a letter recently received from Representative John Stefanski, and that letter is, you'll turn to divider at page 31. I'll just walk you through this as quick as I can. Page 31 is attachment E, divider. The very next page is the letter from Representative Stefanski about the ARP program and how he understands it's going to be administered. That letter discusses Enrolled Act 410 of the Louisiana legislature. We expect that it's going to provide the opportunity for Crowley to receive 100% grant funding for this project. That's news to us. Under Act 410, grant applications will be received starting on August 1st. Under that Act 410, a portion of the project could be funded using ARP monies received by the state. A local match will be required, and that local match will be funded using some of the ARP money that's coming directly to the city. In fact, this project, because we applied for it for capital outlay money last year, capital outlay projects now that are in priority 1 and priority 2 are targeted under this program as having a higher priority. So you have that advantage now that we have the UV project in the legislature as a priority 1, priority 2 project. With that, when we apply for the UV project under the ARP program, there's a better chance that we're going to get funded. The other thing is, the act is encouraging all municipalities who have a project to use the direct money coming into the city as the match. Since we have that project applied for, and because we could use the ARP money that's coming into the city directly, it enhances our chances to be rated high enough and get the 100% grant for that project.
Tim, okay, this question that I have, when the funds come in, are they dedicated funds, or can, let's say they come in and we have one of our pump lift station goes out, can we use that, or is it coming in to dedicate only to specific main projects? Or can it be used, at the mayor's discretion to say, well, we got, the road just crumbled in on 8th Street or what have you. We need to get that as an emergency. Can they use that fund, or do each dollar come in as a designated dollar?
If I may, I have not received the specifics on the usage of those funds from the Treasury Department as of yet.
Now, all we have is the act itself, Mr. Martin, and that act says that we're limited to using the funds for water, sewage, and drainage.
Okay, Tom, William?
I caution that the optimism expressed in the letter of the Phil Gillis, I hope he's right. I have not yet seen any of the regulations from the Department of Treasury. And Act 410 does not speak to that, to the question you asked either. So we don't know, but the suspicion is that they're going to be focused, but as Representative Stefanski has had a briefing on this, I think he's talking from that briefing more so than he's talking from the language that we've actually seen. Because I don't know if anyone has guessed the legal language that where we would be constrained. And until the same time from Treasury and from the Commissioner's office. I don't think we can specifically answer those questions. But as of right now, we're very hopeful that we can at least use it for these priority projects. For an emergency, it would have to be something that would probably tied to the events that occurred previously, not something that occurs now.
Okay.
That's what I've kind of just.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Just for clarity for the public, the ARP program, that's the COVID relief money, okay.
I would just add to what Tom said, that there doesn't appear to me to be any inconsistency with Representative Stefanski's letter and the act itself. I read the act. I think he brought out the points in the act that are correct, but still we don't have the regulations, and regulations become the new law. And whatever the law is, you don't obey the law, you obey the regulations that are brought about by the law. So we haven't seen those yet.
You've got a general statement, Mr. Chairman, for the Act 410, the specifics of the rules. That's what we have to be careful. That's what we have to be careful before we make any statements of commitments on certain things.
All right, well, we got somebody right here that might have a little general into it. He's looking with his time, so you're official. Go ahead. No, I'm giving you the floor.
I'm sorry, I didn't know how to speak, or I just,
Well, I mean, this is the main subject, yes, sir.
I just wanted to briefly point out exactly what Mr. Reagan said, but I'd also gotten some information from some other municipal public policy consultants in the state, that what the Treasury, something they're considering doing, in the near future, is establishing a system of variances if the city can show great need, like to say, as if their sewer, their drainage and everything is strong and structurally fine, if they can show some great need of another project that's still within the realm of infrastructure. They're looking into creating a variance process, but it's not in existence yet. It's just hearsay, so to speak. But I don't want to fuel optimism. I just wanted to put in what I heard from other consultants.
Well, that's the reason why I brought it up, because that was also told to me as well, that right now, if, let's say the city has a greater need, they wouldn't be wrong in using it, but they might be sanctioned into it. But I don't think in other words, would get a reprimand for using it, knowing that you had an emergency.
I wouldn't be the one to have any bearing on that topic. That'd be Mr. Reagan. But I just came up to give that little point of practice, because we actually, in my administrative law class, we actually looked over these regulations the other day, and that was the discussion.
But normally when you get these type, basically, I deal with a lot of them, and I notice a lot of times they'll tell you, well, you need to do such and such, but something else arises, and like those saying, well, it's for the light bill, but the light bill ain't due till next week. The water bill needs to be paid today, so give you a general idea. Sometimes they fluctuate, but like, the reason why I was asking Tom was the fact that if it's a designated, only used for blank, you can't use for anything else. That's what I'm trying to get on that. Okay, all right, Jim?
Yeah, I'd like to continue with that same subject, the UV system replacement project. Prior to us receiving the letter from Representative Stefanski, we requested and received a proposal from Sustainability Partners. That proposal is included in attachment E, which is on page 31, and that's right behind the Stefanski letter. When you see it, you'll notice that the proposal offers to include the replacement of the existing UV system as an addendum to the city's existing contract with SP. That's the contract that you now have on the turf project. SP's proposal would cost a total of $25,743 a month. This amounts to an annual service charge of $308,916, or $6,178,320 over the expected 20-year life of the system. By comparison, we use the state revolving fund interest rates, and we work with Superintendent Crater to come up with what he feels is O&M work and costs specifically related to the UV system. And by comparison, for the city to finance the same UV system improvements with that SRF loan and continue to provide the O&M, it would cost the city about $90,000 per year, or about $1,800,000 over the same 20-year period. So it's clear that SP's proposal really greatly outweighs what the city can do on its own with 0.95% loan and its own O&M. Keep in mind that the superintendent has a workforce, and that workforce will dedicate time to the operation and maintenance of the UV system, cleaning the bulbs, replacing the bulbs, making sure the system is working properly. He doesn't need extra staff to do that. I think if we're looking at someone to furnish the UV system, to furnish a new system and operate it and maintain it, they have to send somebody who's dedicated to that specific piece of equipment. So that's part of the reason why I think the SP proposal is as high as it is. But mostly, the difference is in the financing. The SP proposal is tantamount to an interest rate of about 10% versus 0.95%.
I guess that's the main question is, after the maturity of 20 years, who would own it?
If SP,
They would replace it.
they would continue to own it, they would have to replace it if you want to keep that contract going.
So basically, there would never be a return of ownership, Tom, it's,
No, you're not owning it. SP buys the service and owns it.
okay.
Same thing with the ballpark. They own, same, SP proposal with the ballpark is a slightly different proposal.
Right.
But until we actually get through the number of years, they generally don't, there's this ongoing replacement deal with those fields, so it's a little bit different. That's why Peter, his business plan provides for that. Operating a wastewater treatment facility is a whole different operation than what you're talking about with the recreation department. So, I agree very, very strongly with Mr. Mayor's opinion that this is the SP's proposal is far and away less attractive than the current operation, especially when the money is available through the system that we have now from LDEQ at 0.95%.
I agree. So basically, Tom, in your legal opinion, that would be the best outcome, because the liability and everything else would be, I'm sorry, the liability, they would bear the liability, and in other words, it's no consequence to the city. They would maintain it, would cost the city a penny. Am I right? Am I saying that right?
Well, it's gonna cost you a total of over $6 million over 20 years versus 1.9, 6.
But what I'm saying, if it would break into that time, they would do the replacement, under the same contract.
As I point out to the engineer and the mayor that there are also other problems with this type of situation because the city remains responsible to EPA and DEQ.
Correct,
permitting.
correct, yeah.
You know, so SP, you become hostage to SP. If they fail to do what they said they're gonna do.
That's the question.
We get into a lawsuit with somebody else, we don't have control over that particular function for that facility. The license is not granted to them, it's granted to the city.
City of Crowley, okay,
So,
that's
so,
easy.
I would be very, very much hesitant and would not make a recommendation legally that you enter into agreement because of the liability factor that you still retain, but somebody else is going to be in control of the operation, and that you don't really have an effective tool to manage them and enforce them. I can tell you right now, you know, the meetings that we've had, the mayor and I, and the previous mayors, and Tim and I talked about this before, EPA and DEQ are very serious about this, and we have paid fines already, and I don't wanna be negotiating another $500,000 or $250,000 fine on issues, you know, because we already have compliance orders.
But that's the reason, Tom, and, with all due respect, that's the reason I wanted out though. That, you know, you're looking at $6.something million at the end of the day, and the city doesn't own anything. But yet the city is, if anything goes wrong, paperwork, whatever, the city would be like, I just wanna thank you for that.
This committee is, the main reason I'm here today is to serious consequences to the actions that need to be taken with regard to the wastewater system, and all of these responsibilities fall to this council to make those decisions, and they're hard decisions. And I understand that, and no one likes to raise rates and do things at all, and look at things. There ain't no easy way out of these things. It costs money to operate the system, and you've got a legal responsibility and obligations in so many factors, and you can see that in the report that you have here that Tim sent out. You read that, you read the supporting opinions that Mr. J. Delfield and myself provided to the mayor and the engineer regarding the legal obligations. There are significant consequences, and I think Tim's very cogent in having this discussion. I'll let you know that there are problems that we have to deal with that are coming up, and we need to deal with it quickly, because October is coming soon, and that's a drop dead date on a lot of these issues, particularly with the bonds and the other, these grants. And things, all of that stuff is coming to hit. October is a big month for us, and we need to get all this in place. And this is not something that needs to get out.
Thank you, John. So, I'm sorry, what was next?
Thank you, Chair. We already have a contract with SP with the ball fields, and also I've spoken to representatives from SP, and they follow DEQ guidelines, and I'd like to call them about this proposal possibly tomorrow, but I just want to know, like, what's the difference between going with SP on the ball fields and not in other areas. I just don't know what the difference would be. If we trust them enough for the ball fields, what's the difference with other areas?
Nobody's gonna find you $1 million, $25,000 per event per day. The EPA and DEQ have that authority on multiple issues, every violation, every excursion.
They watch DEQ, and plus they watch like the changing, say for instance, the type of wastewater system we have right now, that the DEQ could change their mind next year that that's no longer viable, and then we're stuck with all of that equipment, and we have to buy all new equipment, we have to revamp that entire system. And so if that happens, I mean, I don't like these numbers on here for sure, and that I'm going to call them about that. But if we need to revamp that entire system, then that onus would be on SP and not the city of Crowley to do an entire new wastewater plant or system.
I think it's a very optimistic approach that you have there. And legally, I don't see any sound basis for it. It's a substantial difference between operating a recreation department in a multifaceted system like that. And this technology is the NASA technology that's developed for the space station. This is the process that came out of that adopted over many years ago, and was recognized as the most environmentally sound and appropriate procedures. I don't see anybody ever changing that because mechanical processes are as difficult to maintain as biological process. Either way you look at this, there's only two ways to go: mechanical or biological.
Well, even NASA changed, from the space shuttle to the, they changed their things that they do as well sometimes, so, but, thank you.
Okay, Tim, that's another reason why we depend on this gentleman. Because he's the one, that's our eyes and ears right there. We have to go by what he brings us. Tim, with that being said, forward to yours.
Okay, I brought up the subject of asking SP for a proposal for the replacement of the UV system. Brought it up saying that we asked that before we got the letter from Stefanski. So I think a deep discussion about SP's proposal is really kind of on a tangent, because if we get the grant, we don't even need to do that. We use the grant money. A little later in my report, we're going to talk about another SP proposal that we're pursuing, and again, at the request of council in the past. But for now, I think what I want to leave you with on this subject is if a grant through the American Rescue Plan is the way to go. If you read the Act 14, you're gonna find the same wording that you find in the LCDBG grant regulations about user fees. You're going to have user fees in place that bring you a sustainability factor of at least 1.1, and that evaluation is gonna have to be done independently by an organization such as Louisiana Rural Water Association. So I'm gonna bring that up as I go through my report. I didn't have any action to take on this item. I wanted to keep you informed of what we were doing and where we are with the UV project.
Clint?
Yeah, another thing that I would like to see us pursue, and I mentioned this before, was the recommendation from the Public Service Commissioner that we look into selling our sewer plant. And so, and the system, like we have with the water system, and we have with the electrical system, and we have with the telephone system, everything else. So I think that is something that we should at least look into and pursue, and maybe, okay, great,
It's coming up in my
thank you.
Okay, and ladies and gentlemen, I know this has been long-winded, but what we're talking about determines whether your sewer and your user fees goes up or not. Okay? And every time the city has to spend $1, we have to recoup that dollar some way. So that's the reason why we want this out in the open, so y'all know. Okay, anything else, Tim?
Yes, if you go to page 19, the subject is at letter D, the LCDBG fiscal year 2020-2021 project. It is an action item. If you turn to page 20, I do have some updates there that I want to give to you before we get into the action items. I want to remind you that the governor informed the mayor in a letter in April that the city of Crowley's $1.6 million grant application is approved. And you want to remember that that LCDBG grant is an essential component of the city's annual MWPP resolution, which promises DEQ that the city will increase its efforts towards combating infiltration inflow. That's what I&I is. The mayor executed the amendment number 4 to our engineering standard agreement for professional services for that project. And that is going to be part of the project. Adding the cost of engineering and inspection for the LCDBG project to the SRF loan agreement will increase the annual payment to an amount between $45,000 and $50,000 per year for the remaining term of the loan. The LCDBG fiscal year 2021 granting workshop was conducted on May 26th. During that workshop, grantees were informed that grant conditions would need to be cleared by October 25th. A new contract condition requires that any grantee that applied for a sewer system improvement project must have a sewer user fee study conducted by LRWA. And based on that LRWA study, grantees will be required to adjust sewer user fees to achieve a minimum 1.1 sustainability factor before grant funds will be dispersed. We received the LRWA study from Crowley and prepared a report to the City Ordinance Special Committee as mandated by the ordinance. We held a meeting of the special committee in mid-June. We are presenting its findings and the certification of the city clerk, city engineer, city CPA, and city auditor at this meeting tonight. Council previously authorized the mayor to execute an amendment to the city's master agreement for engineering and grant administration professional services. Engineering and grant administration services began in June upon council adoption of the 3 resolutions required in the grant regulations. We are at about 60% of complete of the plans and specifications. I'm going to talk a little bit more in detail after this about the user fee study, but I would like you to consider 6 resolutions that are required under the LCDBG program. These resolutions are necessary in order to continue to get the funding, the $1.6 million funding. If you will turn to attachment F, which is on page 32, divider. Give me a minute to get back there.
32?
Page 32 is the divider. It's basically the last set of documents at the end of my report.
Is that for the list?
Yeah.
Yeah, so attachment F on page 32, behind that divider are 6 resolutions. First is a resolution appointing Joan Finley as Accessibility Compliance Officer and adopting a complaint procedure for the Louisiana Community Development Block Grant Program.
Tim, if possible, would it be, Tom, would it be in order if I would read each one of them and we can vote at one time? Or do we have
I would
to?
read just the titles and.
Okay.
What we're doing is referring these to your full meeting next week.
Right, okay. Oh, yeah, I'll keep.
It's on the-
What I'll do,
We
I'll
need
do.
zoning recommendations, that's all,
Okay.
one point of main four of the council.
Okay, so, should I read them into the minute?
Yes,
Okay.
That would be fine, sir.
All right, the first resolution, the resolution appointing, Ms. Joan Finley as Accessibility Compliance Officer and adopting compliance procedures for the Louisiana Community Development Block Grant, which is CDBG. Second, a resolution adopting a residential, displacement and. It's close enough. It is a typo, but I'm reading it as it sounds. And relocation assistance plan and appointing, once again, Ms. Joan Finley as in, what I just said, and this place, relocation officer relative to Louisiana Community Development Block Grant, which is CDBG. Okay. Third, a resolution appointing Ms. Joan Finley as labor compliance officer for the Louisiana Community Development Block Grant, which is CDBG. The next one, a resolution appointing Ms. Joan Finley as Equal Opportunity Officer, which is EOO, for the Louisiana Community Development Block Grant, CDBG. And next, a resolution appointing Ms. Joan Finley as the City of Crowley Section 3 Coordinator and adopting the Section 3 plan relative to Louisiana Community Development Block Grant, which is CDBG. Next, a resolution adopting a language access plan for limited English proficiency, which is LEP persons. Okay, meaning, very simple, a person that does not understand or speak English language, relative to the Office of Community Development Block Grant, which is the.
I'd like to offer those for consideration at your full council meeting next week.
Can we get a motion? Offered by law?
Second.
Okay, we've got another second. Jeff, council plan. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, have the same right? Motion carried. John got a lot of positions. Yeah, I'm trying to take you.
No, yeah.
Yeah, okay, I know what's time. Okay, Tim, anything else? I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Chair. What does all that mean, Tim?
Those are regulations that have been in place probably for 25 years. It's just all red tape, federal government red tape. That's us complying with federal law, that federal law is behind all the money that we receive.
And it just gives Ms. Joan the authority to pursue all of that and have access.
Yeah, the block grant office wants to know that there's an individual, a specific individual
In
in City
charge.
Hall that's in charge
Okay,
of those
got
matters.
it, okay.
Usually she will sign and fill out this document on it.
Usually we have it like when you put in an application with Tim knows doing the housing with the tax credits, they want one contact person. They don't want to be
Yeah.
sent through this way. Good luck, Ms. Jones. Okay, Tim?
The last item I have is not an action item, but it has to do with the sewer service user fee rate ordinance. And so it's action that will have to be taken in the near future. If you go to page 22 of my report, I'm going to make reference to a binder. You can hold it up. This is a binder that I gave you all. This is my report on the process of the annual review of your sewer user fees and expenses and revenues of the system. So I'm providing you that report now so that you'll have time to look at it before the next council meeting, or the regular council meeting next Wednesday. The binder includes the ordinance required certification of the city clerk, city engineer, city CPA, and city auditor. At the very beginning of the binder is a letter that I've written to summarize everything, hopefully put it all in perspective. A resolution will be presented to council at the July 14th regular meeting to set the date of the public hearing for an ordinance pertaining to the adjustment of the sewer user fee rates. The date of the public hearing would then we assume would be August 11th. And to Mr. Crater's comment a while ago, we want to tell you that at the request of some council members, the mayor, the city attorney, city bond council, we issued an RFP to sustainability partners in June for that company to acquire, own, operate, and maintain the city's wastewater collection and treatment system. In response to that, SP requested a substantial amount of documentation needed for the preparation of their proposal. The SP requested information and documentation was compiled and provided to SP last week. It was so much information that they asked us to give them answers to their questions as they were available so they could begin their work, and we did it over the course of about 5 days. We expect SP to submit their proposal during the month of July, and we intend to make that proposal available to council at its August utility committee meeting. That time with the presentation, the public hearing, the presentation of the ordinance to adjust the sewer user fees. No action is required at this time. I can answer questions now. As you go through the report, the intention is not to have to spend so much time in a meeting, but if you've got questions about it, call me. You've got plenty of time to do that.
Yeah,
And my, what, and one of the reasons why I'm proposing this is that I had a conversation with Sheriff Gibson a couple weeks ago about the crime issues in Crowley and the juveniles. And one thing that I brought up, and I don't know if it's feasible or not, but maybe it would be, is that if we do sell this sewer plant and we do get a good cash flow, let's say we get $5 or $6, $8 million, maybe we could partner with some of the surrounding cities and build a juvenile detention center and make a deterrent to these kids that are out there shooting up our town and killing and doing all this stuff. So he was very open to it, and he was gonna try and set up a meeting to talk about it, but that would just be maybe one way of trying to fund something like that, and instead of, I mean, it was a recommendation also by the Public Service Commissioner that we sell it, and I was thinking, that would be a good way to fund a juvenile detention center maybe. So anyway, that was just a thought. There's a lot of thoughts out there. There's a lot of things going on, but we just need to do something about this crime deal, and that was one way that we could raise revenue in a hurry and maybe build a juvenile detention center. But anyway, that's just a thought.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to move back to what I can see. I apologize. Okay.
Tracy Young, I am on that special review committee. So, while I appreciate your thoughts on that, and we went over that about selling it, but the issue is that it needs, tell me if you can help me here, I don't know how much repairs it needs, like 1.6, but the grant, if we just raise the rates, we get $1.6 million of free funds. Whoever buys it, whether it's Sustainability Partners or whoever else gonna buy it, they're gonna take the value and subtract the repairs needed, and you're right back from go. So, and we spent 2 or 3 hours on this a couple weeks ago, and I know y'all don't want to go up on the rates. However, if you look at the Public Service Commission rates, their rates are much higher, much higher than what we're proposing on this. So the rates are gonna be even higher than what you can do now. And plus you get 1.6 and you get your system fixed for almost virtually free. And there's no matching funds, if I'm correct, Tim, is that right? We don't have to match anything for that 1.6.
You do have to match the cost of plan specs and administration.
Right, but other than that, it's 1.
Well, I want to say that you opened the subject, the 1.6 million is the LCDBG money for repairs to the collection system, but you also have at stake the 1.2 million, which is matchless. So
That's what I'm
you're approaching $3 million worth of grant funds that ride on the adoption of the LRWA rate study.
And so, and I get them confused, and I apologize for that, but I knew there was some, non-matching fund. But if your whole, if the council's whole idea of not going up on the constituents, selling it is the worst thing you can do, because it's going to go up double that.
And where was that?
Huh?
How do you know that?
Because if you look at the public service.
I talked to the Public Service Commissioner.
But if you look at, but first, if you look at the Public Service Commission rates, they regulate on how much they can charge. And I don't know any business that says, well, how much can I charge? Can I charge up to 17 cents? Okay, well, I'm charging 17 cents. They're not gonna charge a nickel. They're gonna go up to 17 cents. If you even look at our utility bill, it's filled with fees, and that's because they can charge it because the Public Service Commission says you can charge that. And so, and any good business person knows, charge what you're allowed.
Well,
Yeah, we're gonna get an answer to that very question. I don't have an answer to it now, but we're asking SP to give us 3 vital pieces of information. One is to tell us what their user fee structure will be in the agreement to purchase. We wanna know, and we know we can't expect that to last forever, which kind of goes back to what Tracy's saying. Sooner or later, adjustments will have to be made in the Public Service Commission, and the new owner would have to deal with that. The other thing we're gonna ask them, we're not gonna settle for just what they believe their user rates should be to begin with. We wanna know, what do they feel are their annual expenses? And what do they feel are the appropriate amount of revenues to meet those annual expenses? We're gonna make sure that SP is put through the same rigors that EPA, DEQ, LCDBG, everybody's putting the city of Crowley through at this point.
And, I mean, the main thing, I know how the Public Service Commission work. It's usually, with AMI, annual median income, okay? They project, they know not to go, I'm just using the term, not go to Estonwood and charge $10, you understand, to come to Crowley and charge 10. I'm just using the term. It goes by, Tom, am I right in saying that?
Yes,
sir. And also, what everybody projected right here about $1 to make $1, it's called the cost of doing business. Ain't nobody gonna buy something where they gonna break even. It just ain't gonna happen. But at the end of the day, like Clint say, in all things, because let's face it, if you got a business and every time you open up, you ain't selling nothing, but your lights, water, and gas is going on, eventually you're gonna get rid of it, okay? Maybe that next person might have the golden key to make it happen. So I'm for whatever we need to do to make this thing viable, because everything is germane to the same subject. We're trying to save people money.
And just keep in mind that the sewer, that the utility made $430,000 profit last year, so that might be attractive to somebody.
Yeah, when you think about it, if you multiply that by 10 years, okay, that's a heat. But anyway, Tim?
That's all I have. Thanks.
Tim, people will be mad at you.
Appreciate your endurance.
All right, so anybody miss something tonight, you gonna talk to me. All right, y'all, thank y'all. Anything else coming? Tom, thank you for coming. Have a blessed night. Anything else coming before utilities? Anybody in the audience? Any questions? We're gonna recess.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Morton, National Recreation Committee, Mr. Primo.
Thank you, Mayor. I will open recreation, and first off will be the director's report.
Good evening. Our baseball and softball season youth program has come to an end, with our teams representing us well in all-star play this past weekend. We hosted a total of 4 weekends of tournaments in June. 3 of those weekends included 2 all-star tune-up tournaments and 1 weekend of all-star sectional tournaments. Our gross sales and concessions for the month of June were $77,150. We were a site host for a high school age tournament in late June, which saw 20 teams, 17 of which were from out of the state that came to visit Crowley. We saw teams from Mississippi, Georgia, Arkansas, and Texas. We have 3 or 4 weekends in June booked with high school and college age tournaments, with high school and college age tournaments. While these tournaments are not a huge punch in concession like the youth tournaments, they are 100% teams from out of town. 75% of those teams are from out of state. All come to Crowley because of our turf facility. We already have 30 weekends requested for 2022, and that does not include the fall schedule. So that's right now between January and July. We will begin our soccer and flag football registration later this month through the month of August, with practice starting in the month of September. Everything's going well. Right now, we're still working through parking lot construction on the Henskin side. We're trying to knock down grass. The grass is growing faster than Roundup can kill it. It's amazing. Also, I had received a lot of inquiries about a splash pad, or the idea of a splash pad in Crowley. This just kind of came to light early this week, late last week with me. So what I'm going to tell you guys and gal now is that I'm going to look into the cost to build, the cost to maintain, and also try to reach out by suggestion to the Lieutenant Governor's office to see if there's any grants available for Crowley to get this at little or no cost. So, yes, sir.
And I'm the one that brought it up to you, I know. I actually drove to Abbeville yesterday afternoon, my wife and I, and went and looked at the splash pad that they have out there. It's really neat, but it's not nearly as big as what I thought it was. It's probably 40 by 60 at best, and I don't think it would be a whole lot of money. I really don't. And of course, it's gated, so, you know, there's some talk about we could put one in this park, put that park. No, I think it needs to be supervised, and we need to keep the big kids out of there, because it's really not that big. But anyway, it's really neat, and I think it's something that the city should pursue, and grants would be a great thing. I don't think it would cost a lot of money, because there's not a lot to it. So anyway, I was pleasantly surprised when I saw what it was all about. I had no idea what a splash pad looked like even, but it is pretty neat, so.
Yes.
Something to
Step.
look into.
Clint, thank you for that. And Peter, when I said that's something I had to talk, that's basically, I was invited to, Baton Rouge. One of the guys, one of my clients, he has an investment in, what is that name of that water park in towards, leave out of Baton Rouge?
The Blue Buggy?
That, the ones in Baton Rouge, the splash, put a dent in, and you see the feedback that he has, it just put a dent. And the good part about it, I thought that the water would be lost, but they shoot the same water. In other words, the water, they recycle the same water, okay? So he told me, like, he said, that's a cost right there. Once you, it's just like filling your swimming pool. So man, if you can look into it, whatever, I think that'll be something, man, that the kids would love. And the good part about it, I mean, you know, the elderly can walk, because man, look, it's getting hot. That's what I want to talk to you about.
Yes,
Thank you.
sir. Yes, sir. So hopefully by August, I'll have some more information, more details to present, and see what I can come up with. Thank you.
Anything else for Peter? Okay, thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Okay, next we'll have the city engineer's report.
Nothing further.
Thank you, sir. Anything else for Red? Then I will recess.
Thank you, Mr. Primo. Next is zoning and annexation, Mr. Fogelman.
Thank you, Mayor. Zoning annexation convenes, we have a committee, quorum, all members are present. Mr. Mayor, do you have anything for us in the engineering?
No.
We have nothing actually scheduled on the agenda, and so as a result, I will recess.
Next is, thank you, next is Public Safety Committee. Mr. Core could not make it, Mr. Woolridge can't reside, so we're gonna ask Ms. Stringfellow. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Public Safety Committee will convene. Our chairperson is absent, but we do have a quorum. The purpose of said meeting will be to consider, before we do this, I do want to amend the Public Safety Committee agenda to have a representative from CAB Steering Committee to give us an update on that. So,
Thank you for informing everyone what it's for, and I'll ask for a vote, please. Need a show of hands. Mr. Byron Woolridge, Mr. Vernon Martin, Ms. Kim Stringfellow, Mr. Stephen Grimwood. Okay, so Gwen?
okay, thank you. Let's see, under reports, Our chief is absent, but Captain Troy Hebert will give a report in his stead.
The chief apologizes for not being able to make it today. He's currently in the hospital with a knee infection. And at the month of June, we answered 913 calls. We ended up issuing 78 tickets, and 46 additional tickets were from the TED program. We worked 50 accidents. We had 7 attempted homicides. And we did hire 5 police officers in June. We have 2 more to hire come Friday, and that makes us right at 20 for the year since September. That would be 20 new hires since September of last year. We did put the speed trailers out. We have one currently right now on Northern and the other one on 3rd Street. If anybody has any suggestions of where it might be needed, just get with me or the chief and we'll make sure to place it out there.
Any other questions? Steph?
Yeah, oh man, got those, yeah, okay, a while back, I'm sorry. A while back, we had done, and Mayor, I hope everybody remember, we had talked about shutting the road down. We put the 3-way stop sign on, what is that, Westwood Drive? Going into Westwood, along the tracks. Remember, we had talked about, let's try the three-way stop sign. If y'all remember that, it was discussed. And that was the last hurdle that we wanted to see, would that deter, I mean, look, the speeding and the running, it's like the stop sign was not even there. I happened to be over there the other day, because that's where the brothers are, and we were working. And the only thing that I heard was, watch out. This guy came out of Bobby Smith 1 and 2. Had it not been for the extra 2 or 3 feet of siding on the side of the road, he would have been hitting the tracks. The kid was able to dive out the way. So what I'm asking this council to do, if you remember, it was part of a discussion, that when the houses were built, I don't know if y'all remember Stephen and Lau, I stepped off the council at the time because I was one of the partners that brought it in. Okay, I've spoken to the other partners, and they want to close. Okay, because of what's happening. It's a lot of traffic going into the subdivision. That's not their traffic. In other words, I mean, you hear the booming or what have you, and I would think it would be a good idea, because I think the survey would have been with the fire department, and also with y'all. They wanted to see how much time, or would it affect the rate, what y'all call it, the response time. And I think they've done a few studies, and it was proved that it wouldn't delay, okay? So what I'm asking this council to do, and Mayor, if we can get the ball rolling with this, the road needs to be shut down before somebody can kill right there. And just let it just be a one, I mean, just, in other words, if it's speed bumps or whatever it may take to slow it down, because apparently the stop signs they make. So I'm thinking, that's the one heading in to Westwood, man. When you go across the track, Martin Luther King Center right here is the first road to your right. It's the one that goes into Westwood. So if you have time tomorrow, if you go, I'll tell you what, man, if you would go park on the road, and in 20 minutes, if you would see them run at least about 30 times, stop time, or anybody, if you have time, just go by there. That's how bad it is. And it's summertime, the kids are trying to go to the Martin Luther King Center, to play ball, and they have to run in ditches to try and get out of the way. So what I'm asking this council to do, if we can, let's shut it down. The owners of the property, they said in a skinny minute that they would want to shut down. Because it was shut down before we built it. We opened it up so the trucks wouldn't have to go all the way down Northern, not Northern, I'm sorry, Hutchinson, and coming into, what is the other road? Yeah. That's where we are with it, and I hope that we can start the discussion on that. Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes, ma'am. I would encourage involving Mr. Nader, city engineer, and Mr. Reagan, city attorney, to make sure that we can cover every aspect of all.
Hey, whatever it takes, I appreciate that, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else have a question?
We would
Or
also,
Captain?
we'll also, assign some traffic detail on that street too, and see if we can enforce some of the stop sign violations.
Does anyone else have any questions for Captain Aber? Okay, Alderman Stephen?
Yes, thank you. Troy, with these new hires, does that bring y'all up full? Does that bring y'all to full?
Friday will still be, we'll have two more, the last days of Friday, so we'll have two more openings. And then from there, it'll bring us to full. Now, it'll take a little while to get them trained and road ready.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. That was my question too. How many do we have officers, not like secretarial personnel and that? How many officers do we have on the police force?
We have 35 commissioned police officers, 22 are assigned to patrol, which gives, consisting of 4 shifts. 2 of them with 6 officers and the other 2 shifts with 5.
Thank you. And thank you for those speed trailers. We appreciate it. And if anyone wants one on your street, just contact your city council person and we'll get them moved around. We appreciate you putting them out. Anyone have anything else? Okay, thank you. We'll move to Fire Chief Luis Romero's report. And he couldn't be here tonight, so I have that with me. Dear Mayor Monso, I'm requesting an allocation of funds to the fire department budget as per our discussion on line item 146-217, labeled truck and equipment repairs. The actual amount budgeted was $26,000. The budget was amended back in March at the council meeting for line item 146-216, labeled truck and equipment repairs. $20,000 was given for a total of $46,000. As of today, July 2nd, line item 146-217, labeled truck and equipment repairs, has a current balance of $962.17. We currently still have approximately 2 months remaining in the 2020-2021 budget. I have Unit 14 that is in need of repair. It appears to have a fuel system problem. I'm requesting another allocation of $5,000 to be added to the line item 146-217, labeled truck and equipment repairs, in hopes that this money will carry the fire department through the remaining budget. If there are any questions that arise regarding this issue, please feel free to contact me. And I believe we're going to move this to the finance.
Okay, if you don't mind, by this report being given, we'll continue to the next one, the city inspector, Tony Duyo, and then we come up with the action item, and then we can vote on it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, and I do have Mr. Tony Leon's report. He was not able to be with us as well. Let me pull that up. And Mr. Tony Duyon says code enforcement, 55 active code enforcement case, 38 tall grass, 11 trash/rubbish, 3 uninhabitable structure, 2 abandoned vehicles and safety issue permits, 4 demo permits, 19 electrical, 4 gas and 1 altar, and 4 home plan review. Received about 310 phone calls, 33 violations issued, animal control, 7 dead animals, and I'm sure those were on the side of the road, or in the road. We didn't cause that. 10 cat issues and 39 dog issues, 19 dogs taken in and 22 cats taken in. 3 citations issued with 6 violations. And he said to contact, if further information is needed, respectfully, Tony Duyon. And we'll move on to beer and liquor licenses, and there are none. And move on to action items, and this action item is to consider appropriation request made by Fire Chief Louis Romero of $5,000 to the Fire Department budget line item 100-46-217, labeled Fire Truck and Equipment Repairs, and referring the matter to the Revenue and Finance Committee for further action, and I so move.
Second.
Seconded by Stephen Primo. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that moves on to the Revenue and Finance Committee. I think we did have someone from the CAB to discuss. This is from the steering committee for the Citizens Against Blight. Thank y'all.
We have updated information from CAB. We originally wrote the entire city and came up with a total of 512 properties. When we started the mapping program, Mr. Mader provided more accurate mapping system for us to use. It entails every block in the city of Crowley and every lot in the block. So the members of CAB went out again and rode the entire city to give you a more accurate count. Unfortunately, the number is 651 blighted properties. Total. That's the starting point, 651. And that's based off of the field maps that Mr. Mader provided for us. We went out, we marked those properties ranging from 1 to 5. We provided the information to Mr. Mader, and he has put it to map as you see it there. The breakdown of the properties are reflected on the map. Everything red is blighted. Anything that you see orange reflects 29 code enforcement's properties that are in work orders in code enforcement, and they've proceeded by opening a file on those 29 properties. Under blue, you will see 5 structures that have been declared inhabitable by code enforcement. Purple, you will see 14 structures have been submitted to the city attorney for processing. So 14 are in the hands of Mr. Reagan. There you go. And in green, you will see 41 structures have been identified as completed, either demoed or reported to code enforcement as being brought up to code. So from the 651, 41 is removed from the map. So as a total, from 651, removing the 41, we are now have 610 blighted properties to address in the city. Any questions? Steph?
Okay, so the ones that were issued permits, were there monetary value on how much they would have to spend on? I guess Tony would be the one to answer that.
Yeah,
Normally, what would normally happens is that, I mean, you go and you say, well, I wanna put $50,000 into my home, into the house. Do y'all have, like, on each one that were handed out, the amount of money that permits?
Is it on your form, Mr. Bader?
Or you don't have that?
Yeah.
Is there any way we could probably get that? So that way, I mean, that's sometimes you can go to a structure, and you look at that structure, and, well, I got a $10,000 permit. $10,000 ain't even get the roof fixed, okay? So I'm just trying to get a general idea of how this structure analysis go, okay? I mean, there's no way in the world we're gonna let somebody come up here and say, well, we know we're looking at it, it's gonna take 100,000, but I need a $10,000 permit. Just, in other words, prolong it. That's basically what they'll be doing, okay? So and with all due respect to everybody here, you're doing a excellent job. I mean, people talking about it all over, and so I think if people would have an idea, well, this unit right here, they gave him a permit for 20,000, but the house caught a fire. Okay, where did that 20,000 then begin to go? You see what I'm saying?
That's the job of code enforcement
Right.
to decide, you know, about,
But I mean,
Yeah.
even though, if he would assign amount, you know, just let the public know where this owner is putting this much of money into that unit. Make sense? And I mean, you use your own senses and say, well, that ain't gonna be enough money to do that, okay? But at the end of the day, when that person come back, 60 days or whatever we give him to work it, and the first thing, well, I'm gonna put I need another permit. You understand what I'm saying? That's a delay. So now it's another 60 days. So I'm just trying to say, let's stop, you know, the trappings of it and try and put it on a level, field where all the citizens know what's going on. And I think transparency with that, the blight and the grass is growing like crazy. And someone made the statement that.
that's the purpose of us asking to be on the committee today, is because we're trying to be transparent, and we need the help of the whole city, because we still have a long way to go.
Okay, got you. Thank you.
Mayor Moss, I have one question. Is it possible that we're going to get a blind attorney?
Yes,
You are? Okay,
Yes.
good. That will speed it up a lot, I think.
yes, thank you. Thank you so much for your report.
Mr. Craig?
We cut into their time.
I have a question for somebody from CAP. I guess, Rich, you would probably be the best one, because you're the one that sent me 2 reports today. One from I guess it was the deputy fire chief, and another one from the chief of police about the warehouse in South Crowley. Do you know if Mr. DeYoung has gone out and looked at that property and evaluated it? Besides the 2 because I didn't get anything from him, I just got the 2, one from fire chief and one from
Ms. Springfeld, I have these packets for everyone to be able to read. Those packets have a basic timeline of that property from back when it was damaged. During 2 hurricanes, one in August and one in October. On the left-hand side, you'll see the timeline on it. And it'll follow you through up to date on what's happened to this point. The police report and the fire report are in there. There is no report from Tony. Tony issued a permit for $60,000 for the property. It was issued on May 3rd to a company called Xcode Technologies. They didn't own the property, but still it was issued to them. They're not a general contractor either, but regardless of that, it was issued on May 3rd for $60,000. Since May 3rd, the front third of the roof caved in on that building. So it was issued for the back end, now the front end has caved in. If you look at the pictures that I have there, there's a trailer 18 feet from the side wall of where that next part of the roof is gonna collapse. You'll see one of the trusses and the studs that are going up into it, how they're actually cracked and ready to go. First windstorm or something, God forbid that hurricane came through, that would knock it down. Those people are 18 feet away from that building. One's a disabled vet, and his wife just had quadruple bypass. They've been there for 30 years, and God forbid that thing falls down. If it catches on fire, according to the police report and my meetings with both the chief and also the deputy chief, if it catches on fire, the only thing they can actually really do is make sure that the surrounding buildings aren't going to burn. The fire will burn it between 3,000 and 4,000 degrees according to them. And they'll have everything in their power just to keep those other buildings from burning. That trailer's going to go no matter what. And because of the pile of wood that's inside of that place, you'll see it in the pictures, it's like a tinderbox. And so the circumstances have changed tremendously since the time the permit was given. And CAB is recommending, very strongly recommending, that this goes into an emergency situation like the thing that happened with the church. In my opinion, and I think a lot of other people's opinion too that have looked at it, this is more dangerous than the church. They have a gas station, the gas pumps are 84 feet away from that wall where all the wood is piled up inside. We called up the fire department because there was actually electricity still hooked up to it and wires hanging inside. Homeless people are living in it. There's gang activity, and you get one of these wise guys that's a gang member wanting to start a fire, thinking it's fun. You might have to evacuate the whole area, and that was talked about in one of those reports. Steph.
Well, after I got the call, I'm sorry. I walked the building, walked around it, and I noticed something here, I need you to tell me this, because sometimes you see things and they're not really what you see. Did I see a gas line that just had a cap on it?
Yes, sir. The way it works with the gas company, and we had this problem over at the church too, is that the gas company doesn't have a shut off at the street. They only have it they take the meter off and they cap off the line right there. That wall and all the walls around it, they're gonna fall. And once you get a break there, let's say for instance, there's a storm that comes through and the lightning bolt hits that building. It's all metal building, it's not out of the question. Starts a fire, the fire department can't put the fire out, they're putting out the fire or keeping people from getting burned. And they won't send their men in there. The police chief said he won't send his men in there. And next thing you know, say that wall falls on that gas line, now you got a gas fire.
Okay, wait, can I just explain to you what I'm asking? So basically, if I would go get a 16-inch pipe wrench, and if I take that cap off, are you telling me that
It's a
gas would come through?
It's a live line, just like it was over at the church. They had to shut the
Wait,
job.
I wanna make this clear. And Tim, I'm gonna ask you, I'm gonna say it one more time. If I decide to go and just get me a pipe and take that cap off, you telling me that there's natural gas coming through there?
Yes, sir.
Right. Okay, I think
Yes,
we've
Alderman
allowed,
Prater.
I'm sorry, we've allowed ample time for Cap to place their report, and the time is up, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank
Okay.
you. Thank you
Anybody
so
have any
much.
questions, you can feel free to give me a call.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. Mr. Craig?
Yes, Mayor, do you know Tony has gone out to inspect this?
Yes, I do.
And-
Thank you. Yes, I've answered the question, yes. After you, ma'am.
Do we have his report?
You sure can go ask him for it, yes, sir. Have you,
Okay.
Ms. Ringo?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We have one other person that wanted to come and speak in front of the Public Safety Committee, Mr. Tracy Young.
Speak, please. Stick to the agenda. Please stick to the agenda.
Well, it's just a discussion. It's not.
Please stick to the agenda, Ms.
Make
Ringo.
that agenda amended, please.
She
Agenda
already
amendment.
amended, she already amended for speaking.
No, she only amended it for that particular topic.
Make another.
Okay, I'd like to amend the agenda so Mr. Tracy Young can speak.
Are we in public safety?
Yes, from Public Safety, so if I can have a second.
Second.
Seconded by Mr.
Okay,
Vernon
hang on.
Moore.
Gotta do it unanimously.
I know, I was getting there. You want to do that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
All right,
Go ahead,
Mr.
Mr.
Corey's
Trainer.
not here. Mr. Woolridge? Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Ms. Stringfellow?
Yes.
Mr. Stephen Primo?
Yes.
Okay, granted. Oh,
Yes, we'll,
Yeah.
just at 2 minutes,
2
Mr.
minutes.
Young.
All right,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you. Give me a second. I'll just do my clock too, so that way I know,
Yes, sir.
because apparently some people get more than others, but
I
I'll stay 2 minutes.
apologize for that, and it will not happen again.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
All right, I started. So, May 5th, I was appointed chairman of the litter abatement committee. I have not heard yet anything. So if you wonder where the litter abatement committee is, I don't know, y'all know more than me. I was assured that we had a committee, and I've talked to previous committee members, and I have none. And so, and then I asked, may I suggest somebody for the committee? I was told no, for reasons that this person is running against the mayor. That was his sole reason.
Who asked you that?
Who asked what?
Who asked you, or you asked who?
If you want to know the person's name? I asked if Chad also can be on the member of the.
No, who did you ask?
The mayor.
Okay, all right.
And I have people calling me saying that, hey, I heard you on the litter abatement committee, where you're at. And so now it's my reputation at stake, okay? And then I went and said, and he said, no, I didn't think that answer was right. Then I suggested Cassidy Stoneman, Condor, and Rich Hughes. And last committee meeting, I was told I'd get back with you tomorrow. I just forgot to ask which tomorrow. And I'm just waiting. And I'm sorry, Mayor, but my reputation's getting at stake at this point. People are asking me. And I've asked people and they go, they haven't heard nothing. That they said they're on this committee. And I just can't do this anymore. I mean, it's my reputation on stake. With that, I got 30 seconds left. I resign as chairman of the litter abate committee because it is just not in my best interest, in my public opinion, and my public image in this city. I just can't do it. I have no help. I fully understand why Roy Easy resigned. And it's just, there's no help. So I learned a long time ago, if you want to know how your enemy works, bring him into your fold because he'll either give you your best ideas or he'll show you how much of an idiot he is. So my 2 minutes is up and I'll do it now.
Thank you, sir.
Do we have to accept his resignation?
I think we do have to accept it, yes. And we will, I know that's not on the agenda, so I will put it on for next month that we discuss that at length. And are there any other discussion items to come before public safety? Mr. Reggie?
This was for the mayor, about the tax sale, Mayor. Do you know when we're gonna have a tax sale? That might help with some of these property issues too, because I know you're under the new system with the whatever, so I'm sure that's probably what, I don't know if you have a date.
I'll get with Ms. Julie tomorrow and I'll let you know as well. Thank you.
What is that again? Just a little clarification.
Tax sale.
Okay. Oh, gosh, okay. Like, is that the auction that we did? Or is that?
That's the tax.
Tax
Okay,
sale.
all right, thank you. Are there any other discussion items? Okay, and the Public Safety Committee will recess.
Thank you. Next is public buildings. Mr. Wilbert, can you recite for that?
He wants me to.
Okay, Ms. Stringfellow?
Thank you, Mayor. The Public Buildings Committee will convene. We do have a quorum. We have discussion item to consider the request of Open Arms Foundation, a men's mentoring program represented by Trevor Stoma, Anthony Russell, and Emily Stoma for the city to co-sponsor a weekend camp at the MLK Center on July 31st and August 1st, and for the city to waive the rental fee, but not the cleanup fee.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved by Mr. Primo and seconded by Mr. Martin. Any discussion? Yes, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, I have a question. I just wanted to make sure that these people that are on the list do have in their possession a 501c3 model.
Okay, and Ms. Solis?
I would like to have permission
Oh,
to,
contingency meeting, don't have to be right now.
I'd like to introduce everybody.
Okay.
If we can have 2 minutes, only 2. Open Arms Community
Call the question.
Outreach.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Crater?
We have a little staff to hold.
Hang on just a second.
I
Mr.
apologize,
Martin.
I'm not on the committee. Before we do anything,
I
just
said-
legalize it, okay?
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay. All right, we just had a little housekeeping thing. Go ahead.
Everybody ready? Okay. Open Arms Community Outreach is a men's mentoring program targeted at boys 5th through 8th grade. This nonprofit was formed by Trevor Stoma, co-owner of Impact Nutrition, and Anthony Rowdy Russell, owner of Rowdy's House of Fitness and Boxing. Joining Trevor and Rowdy are the following board members and mentors. He's not here tonight, but Kyron Benraw, the head football coach at Crowley High and athletic director, is also a mentor. Dexter Scott, quarterback coach at Crowley High School. Darren Arsenault, assistant basketball coach at Crowley High School, is not present, but he's a mentor. Ryan Temple, detective with the Crowley Police Department. Along with Rich Hughes and myself, community volunteers are also board members. Anyone interested in becoming a mentor are welcome to contact Trevor or Rowdy. We're here today to request approval of use of the Martin Luther King Center on July 31st, free of charge from the city. Just that day, July 31st. Open Arms will be hosting a 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. free fun day for the boys grades 5th through 8th. We spoke to Peter Kirsch and the date is open, and he offered any equipment that we might need. He also offered to promote the event through his social media network. Open Arms' mission is to reach these targeted ages and introduce them to the right life choices and offer themselves as a Big Brother type program. After the introduction event, Open Arms will be reaching out to the boys and starting joint activities. Their mission is to show and teach the right road to take in life. They're offering these boys someone to talk to, someone who cares about them outside their homes, and the opportunity to grow in a positive role model and to succeed and reach their own life goals. In answer to your question, Mayor, we are incorporated, and we're in the process of getting insurance now.
Perfect. Thank you. We could get that, and before they vote on it, I just want to make sure that we put it in contingency to vote on it. I mean, to come up with this information later so we can have it on file.
Okay, so we won't be approved until next Wednesday?
No, you can be approved now.
Okay.
That's why I'm saying in contingency without coming forward.
Right.
Full council.
Yes, correct.
Right, we'll move it to the full council. Mr. Martin?
Okay, first of all, I wanna join this. You guys have an idea how many, kids y'all looking at?
No, we don't know right off how many we're gonna reach.
Well, I'll tell you what,
We have some outreach.
I'll get with my since it's in our district, I'll go ahead and sponsor, whatever food that.
Thank you very much.
In other words, lunch is on me.
Thank you very
And
much.
add me to, whether y'all need somebody to pick up the balls or whatever, add me to it.
All right,
I
we
ain't running
appreciate it.
behind, I'm just letting you know.
That's how we're gonna change the problem in the city with youth, is through programs like what's behind us.
Okay, and there's someone else that's gonna be, I hope to come up here and say something that might be able to join with.
He doesn't know, but we picked him up today, Chris.
Well, look, I think Chris and Mayor, it's Jermaine, the two of them, Chris has some ideas. I know it's.
Thank y'all for everything.
But, Chris, we'll be getting with you, okay, through the process, okay, good.
And you'll only want the one day, is that correct? Okay, okay.
And that's MMA conference, so we won't be able to.
Oh, shoot.
Right, that's what I'm
That is the
saying.
LMA
I'm
conference.
gonna go ahead and
Okay.
make sure that they get the food.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Just want to make sure that they understand that it's
A
the city to
contingent
waive
on-
the rental fee, but not the cleanup fee.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, and the next item is to consider the request of Anthony Tebow, president of the Homeland Civic and Social Organization for the city of Crowley, to co-sponsor a COVID-19 relief dance event at the MLK Center on Sunday, September 5th, 2021, waiving the rental fee but not the cleanup fee for said event. Do we have someone here for that?
Chair, I'd like to.
Yes, Mr. Martin.
I am a member, but Mayor, if I may, I just have to ask.
Oh, I'm sorry, and I so move, and Mr. Crater second. Okay, Mr. Martin?
Mayor, I have one question. Was the discussion, with you as far as what's the procedure with it? Because there was a question to me, and I told them that they had directly spoken to you.
Yes,
Okay.
they did, they came.
With understanding about, charging, because that was one of the questions that they had asked me. I said, I don't know what was discussed.
That's waiving the rental fee, but not the cleanup fee.
Right, but I'm just saying as far as, is it the policy of still a policy of the city that there's no charging that, no, is
what I'm saying.
And in providing that the council votes for it, but they also have to provide a status of 501c3. So you would be doing the same thing you just did with this other organization, and
Okay.
making sure contingency.
Right, but I just wanna make sure because, Stephen and a lot of y'all remember, I wanna make sure that there's no conflict with this. I am a member of Homeland, but I don't want there to be special whatever.
But if you're a member, you just have to.
But no, what I'm saying there, I wanna make sure that, they're able, that, I said they, but we are able to charge at the door. Because I wanna go back to the ordinance that we had passed, a lot of y'all remember, Steve? Charge, in other words, charge admission at the door. Because it was brought up to us through legislative, Steve, wrong, tell me. They said that you cannot charge to come into a public building.
Right.
Okay, so I need.
So for the
So
dance
we
and,
can get that
That's what I'm
clarified
saying.
by
I just,
Mr. Reagan.
in other words, I don't want it to be where it will happen, because step one is on that.
Well, first
That's
of all, if you're not on this committee,
No.
okay, well then that's fine, you don't have to vote on it, but I'm just saying before the next meeting, I can check with Mr. Reagan to verify that,
Right,
and then when it's time to come for a vote,
I will
vote
say,
if it does, you abstain.
I will say, thank you, I just want to clear, thank you.
okay, any other questions? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And that will pass as well. Another action item is a resolution of the mayor and board of aldermen of the city of Crowley, Acadia Parish, authorizing a lease to the Assist Agency for office space in the Crowley Enterprise Center located at 11 North Parkerson Avenue to provide for the terms and conditions thereof and to provide for all matters relative thereto. Drafts and release and resolution are attached, and I so move. And seconded by Alderman Crater. Any discussion?
You made the motion,
Yes.
and second, thank you.
Madam Chair,
And,
what
yes.
committee are we in?
We are in
Public
public
buildings.
buildings.
Okay, just want to make sure, thank you.
And is this to extend their lease? Is that what this is, Mayor? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, Mr. Cavell?
Thank you. And I'm assuming, Mr. Mayor, that this is the same conditions
Yes,
as last lease?
yes, sir.
Thank you.
And then hopefully Tom will have the resolution ready by the 14th. Oh, my apologies.
For the resolution that we have?
It's in
is
the
not-
packet.
Okay, all right. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, okay, and Mr. Woolridge
It's
will
okay.
abstain.
Thank you, Mr. Wilbur.
Any opposed? Okay, and that also passes. Any other discussion items to come before the Public Buildings Committee? And the committee recess.
Next, Insurance and Personnel Committee, please continue.
You'll just like for me to read. The Insurance and Personnel Committee will convene, and we do have a quorum. There are no action items. Under discussion items, just wanted a brief update from the mayor on a search for the Crowley city clerk and financial officer, and I did see that in the paper, Mayor. Thank you for that. Do you have an update? Have we had any applicants?
We are still advertising, and we are trying to get it all received in by a certain period, and hopefully we'll have these interviews done, hopefully very soon.
Okay. Is there any reason why we have a deadline for the applicants? I'm just curious.
Like, get them here as soon as possible.
Okay.
I say, get them here, interviewed as soon as possible.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything to come before insurance and personnel? And that committee will recess.
Thank you. Community and Economic Development, Mr. Reggie.
Thank you, Mayor. We do have a quorum, minus Brad Cord. Under actions, I have none. Under a discussion item, Jane Morrison with Crowley Main Street had sent me something saying if we could mention the kids' date is going to be September 18th from 9 to noon. And it's going to be on Crowley Main Street. And she said it's also the same day as the Rice and Gravy Cook-Off, but she has spoken with Jeremy Spell and they were okay with it, so it's not really going to be a conflict. That's really about it. It's a discussion. Anything else for Community Economic Development? I will recess.
Thank you. Revenue and Finance, Mr. Cavell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All are present except Mr. Core. Purpose of the said meeting is to consider under action items Approving an appropriation request made by Fire Chief Louis Romero of $5,000 to the fire department's budget line item 100-46-217 labeled truck and equipment repairs. If referred to the referred to the Revenue and Finance Committee for action, and I so move. It's been seconded. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? None opposed. There's no other action items nor discussion items. Any other items come before this committee? Committee recess. Yes, Mr. Stringfellow.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, do you know when we will expect our budget or preliminary budget or?
At this time, I'm not sure when it will have to be finished.
Okay.
It's soon, it will be done in time for it to be passed for the fiscal years to begin. Committee recess.
Thank you.
Thank you.